Now the finally comes is the class. What is class in this Apex? Okay, or where we will going to write our logics. What will be the blueprint for this, or what will be the structure to add the logics. So here comes the term class. Okay, so what is class in Apex? So in the Apex, a class is a blueprint or the template used to create the objects. It defines the properties and the behavior methods of the object that will be created based on it. So class in the Apex are similar to the classes in other object-oriented language like Java and the C. So those who are familiar with this language, so they already know how we used to create the classes. So the same way you will going to create the class here in the Apex also. Okay, so what will be the or from where we will going to create these class. So now there is the setting icon. Okay, here is the developer console. Using this you will going to redirect to this force.com platform. This will going to open. Okay, now from here let me close this. Okay, and then we will going to open this. This is the developer console. I open, and here we will going to write our code and perform all kind of logics whatever you want to do. So let me close all this. Now from where we will going to create this class. So whatever the logic you want to add or you want to do create, so you will going to perform all these things inside a class. So the first thing is you will going to create a class. So from where we will going to create, first we will going to come to this developer console. Then here is the file. Okay, in this file we will going to have the option new. In this new you will going to click on this Apex class. Okay, so whatever the name you want to give to your Apex class you can give. So like suppose this is my first Apex class. Okay, so my first Apex class, let's click on OK. So this is your class name here, my first class, and here you will see that two things are added by default. So the first thing is the public and the next thing is the class. So the class is the identifier, okay? So using which we are now going to create or going to add all the different variables or the properties, whatever I want to add or the logic in this class only. So, and this is the name of my class. Okay, so what are these two things? So the public, what is this public and what is this class? So here the different key components we will going to have. So the first is a class definition in the Apex start with the class keyword. So this is the predefined keyword. If you want to change this, you cannot change. Okay, it will not going to allow you to save your changes. So this will always be there. So this is the predefined keyword. Okay, followed by the class name and a code block containing the class member. So the variables and the method. So here you will see using this we will going to we will going to tell the force.com that this is the name of my class with the help of this keyword. And here the two curly braces are there. One is the opening and this is the closing one. Now within this block, within this curly braces, we will going to perform all the logic whatever I want to implement. Okay, so here you will going to add different variables and the different methods. Inside the methods we will going to add the logics. Now the next comes is the properties. Class can have a member variables also known as the properties or the instance variables that define the state or the characteristics of the object created from the class. So here within this class we will going to have the different variables. So these variables are also known as the properties. Now the next is the method. So this is the one in which finally we will going to add the logics. So class can have the methods which are functions that define the behavior or the actions that objects created from the class can perform. So whatever the thing you want to do, like I want to do a summation of two numbers a plus b. Okay, so 10 and 20, what will be the sum of these two numbers? So I want to implement this logic so that I can get the summation as the output. So where you will going to do this, I will going to perform this in the method. Okay, so it will going to or you will going to define the behavior what your method will going to do. How you will going to decide this? By adding the logics. Now the finally comes the access modifier. So what are these access modifier? So this keyword is known as the access modifier. Okay, public. So there are the three types of access modifier we are having. So what are these three types we are having is the public, private and the protected. By default, whenever you will going to create the class, it will be public. If you want to make it as private, then you can add the private also here. If you want to make it as protected, then you can add the keyword protected. So all three are the keyword: private, public, and the protected. So what are these access modifier, and what is the meaning of these three access modifier? So Apex supports the access modifier like public, private, and the protected to control the visibility of the class members. Okay, so this is using this, we are now able to control the visibility of my class. By default, class members are always private. So whatever the members we will going to add here, like the variables, then by default they will be private. But if you want to make them public, then you will going to additionally going to add this keyword public. So what is this access modifier? Like suppose this is one of the class and here public is added. Now I want to use this class in some other class also. Okay, I want to access whatever the functionality we will going to add. So I want to access that functionality in some other class also. So how it will be possible? If the access modifier is public, then only we can access the properties of this class to other class. But if it is private, then it would not be possible, because private means now whatever you have added in this class cannot be accessed outside this class. Okay, in some other classes you cannot access it. And in case of protected, what will happen? In case of protected, other class will not be able to access, but whatever the child classes are there for this class, if in this case this class is having some of the child classes also, like the subclasses, then those child can able to access the property of this class, but other classes cannot able to access. Okay, so these are the access modifiers. So they basically used to control the visibility of my class functionality or the class members. Now the next comes here is the constructor. So class used to have constructor also. So if you want to add the constructor, you can add. So how we will going to add the constructor? So constructor used to add it with the access modifier. So it's completely your choice. If you want to add the modifier, you can add. Now the name will be same as of your class. Okay. So the same name we will going to add, and this will be of method type. Whenever we will going to add the parenthesis, okay, these two parentheses we will going to add, which this means that this is the method, and we will now going to, it will be optional. We will either can do any logic implementation here, or we can also make it blank. Okay, so this will going to known as the constructor. Normally, their constructor is needed if I want to do some kind of initialization and all, then only we used to add this constructor, and by without this, else you will not going to see that much we will going to add this constructor. So constructor basically you will going to see whenever we're going to work with the web components, and also at that time you will see this constructor more. So in detail, then we will discuss about the constructors. Now the finally comes the static members. So what are the static members here? Class can have the static variables and the methods. Static members belongs to the class itself rather than the individual objects, and can be accessed using the class name. Okay, so this we will see. First we will see how we will going to add the method. Okay, so this is the constructor. Let me comment. So how we will going to add the comments if I want to add? So using these two slashes, okay, and whatever you want to add, you can add. So this is the constructor. Now let's add some of the method in which we will going to add our logic. So let's add the method. So what I want to do, I want to perform the addition of two numbers. Okay. So first thing is you will going to provide the access modifier. If you will not going to provide, then by default it will be private. Okay. So I will going to make it as public. Now the next is void, and then the method name you need to provide, so it should be relatable whatever the logic you will going to perform inside your method, so the name should be relatable to that. Okay, so what I want to perform sum. Okay, sum of numbers we will going to do here. So in the methods, as I said, you will going to have the parenthesis. Okay, there this is must, and then within these curly braces we will going to add the logic. So first thing comes will be the class. The class will be the keyword, and here will be the access modifier. Then the curly braces will start. In this curly braces, you will going to have the constructor. So this is optional. If you want to write or want to perform any kind of initialization, yeah, then you can add the constructor. Else there is no need to add this constructor. Now the finally comes is the method. so which we will going to implement the logic. So what is my scenario is currently I have two numbers A and B. Okay, and I want to perform the addition of these two numbers. So let's suppose the first number is num1, okay, where the value is 10, and the second number I am having, this is the num2, which is having the value 20. In this way, we used to write the variables. So this is known as the member or the variable, okay, of this class. Now, the next thing is come here is what you store here in this variable num1, the number value I have stored, okay, or the integer we will going to say it in the apex. So what is this integer which I have added here? And here also integer. So these integer is the data type in the classes. Okay, so these are known as the data type. Data type means whenever you used to create the fields in the Salesforce. So like suppose if you want to store email address, okay, so then in the creating the fields at that time, it will going to ask you the data type, what data type of field you want to create. So at that time you used to select the email. Okay, that means that in this field I will going to store the email address. So let's go to the account. Okay, so if this is the fields and relationship. So from the here, I used to create the field using this new button. Like I want to create the or want to store the email address. So these are the different data types available to you. Okay. Now based on the value which I will going to store in my field, that accordingly I will going to select the data type. So like suppose I want to store the email address, so you will going to select the email. If you want to store the date, then you will going to select the date here. If you want to select any kind of currency, then the currency will be there. Now, if I want to store the number, then the data type will be number. So this is the part from the UI, okay, or from the configuration part. To store the values, we first decide what data type will be there. Similarly, in the Apex also, to store the values in these fields, okay, so there you used to call it them as the fields. Here we will going to call them as the variables. Okay, so to store any values in these variables, first you will going to decide what will be the data type. Now, according to the data type, you will going to store the values to them. Okay, so this is the number we have added. So for to store the number in the Apex, you will going to have the data type as integer. Okay, so here the data type for both my fields or for my both my variables will be the integer, and in this the integer value I have stored. What if I will going to store some text value here? So how you used to store the text value in this form? So like this is the text value. Now if I try to save this, let's see what will going to happen. So it has given me the error. Okay, so the red exclamation mark is there, which means the error is there. So just try to click on this. So what is the error? Illegal assignment from string to integer. Okay, so this is the text value which you are trying to store in this field, but the field data type is integer. So the illegal assignment is this. Okay, the data types are not equal. So whatever the data type will be there to store this value, the same you need to add here. Okay, and this is also known as the strongly type. Okay, so the term which we seen in the first line itself, that is the strongly type. Apex is the strongly type. So what is this meaning? That whatever the value you want to store in any kind of variable, then the data type needs to be the same. So it will not be like the JavaScript. Okay, in the JavaScript there is no need to define any kind of data types and all. Any value you can store in any kind of variables. But in case of Apex, whatever the value you want to store, then the same data type needs to be there. This is known as the strongly typed. Okay, so if I want to store this value, then the data type will be the string. Okay, whenever you want to store any kind of text values, here the text values. Okay, so this type of values, normal, these, any these three type of values you want to store, text area, text area, long or rich, then in this case your data type will be the string, which will going to help me to store all these text values. Okay, so now let's go back. So this is the integer. Now what I want to do, I want to perform the addition of both these numbers. So what is the addition will be? the addition will be 30 again, which is the number only. So we will going to create the next third variable to store the addition of both these numbers. So data type for the third number will also be integer only. Okay, so this will be the sum, which will be calculated with the value stored in this first variable and the value stored in this second variable. Okay, so this will finally sum will going to give me the summation of both the variables num1 and the num2. Okay, so this is my method. In this method, this is the logic I want to perform. Now the next is how you will going to run this class. Okay, how we will going to get the output. Let's do this. Now the next is here in the C or in Java, there we used to have system.printout and all scene and cout used to be there. Similarly, in the Apex also, if you want to print something, okay, I want to check what value will be stored in this sum. Okay, so how you will going to check? Here I used to have system.debug. So system.debug is the one which will going to help me that what value will be now finally stored in this sum. Okay, so now let's try to print this value. How we will going to print this? So using system.debug, whatever the value you want to know, you will going to pass. Okay, so in this way also you can pass the value. Okay, it will going to directly give you the sum whatever will become. But I want to add some of the value also so that I can easily identify. Okay, so this is the debug which I have added and this is the final value. Okay, so now let's save this and the next is let's try to run. Okay, and see what output we will going to get in this sum. So using control plus E, this anonymous window will going to open up. Okay, in this window you can run your classes and check the outputs. Okay, so now this is the class, and to access the class method, how you will going to do this? First we will going to create the object for this class. Okay, or the instance. With first you will going to write the name, then write any kind variable name. Okay, then new this. So this is known as the instance creation or the object creation. Okay, based on this object only, this is the object obj will going to known as the object. Based on this object, now I can access all the properties of these classes. Okay, whatever the properties are there, whatever the different methods, whatever the different variables you have added, all I can now access using this obj. Okay, so what we will going to access? We will going to access this method. Okay, whatever the value will going to come this method I want to access. So just write the name of this method in this way. Okay, now we will going to run this. Okay, this is execute highlighted. Okay, so I did not check this button or checkbox. Okay, try to check mark this checkbox true. So automatically the logs will get open. Okay, in the Salesforce, the logs will be created, and in these logs we used to check the outputs. Okay, so now just write check this box and then click on execute highlighted, and now the log will going to open up. Okay, so this is the log created by running this class. From here we will going to mark this checkbox debug only. So if I will going to mark this checkbox debug only, what will happen? Whatever these type of debugs we have added, we will going to get the value for all these debugs. Okay, so now let's check this debug. Here you will see that first whatever I have added within this inverted commas will be printed same. Okay, this part will be printed same here, and then finally 30 is printed here. Why 30 is printed? It will going to print you or give you the value which is stored after adding these two variables. Okay, so in the backend what will happen? Instead of num1, the value which we have stored here will going to come, that is the 10, and in the num2 whatever the value we have stored, it will going to be come here. Okay, in it will going to happen like this, 10 plus 20, and now finally 30 is the value which will be stored into this sum. And when we added these debug, so whatever the values are stored to these variable will be visible to me. Okay, this is 30. Now let's suppose I want to know the values which is stored in num1 and num2 also. So what you can do, similarly you can add the debugs here. So this is, here I want to print what is the value stored in this num1. So I am unknown. I don't know what is the value added in the class. Okay, so I do not have the access to view the class. So I want to check using the debugs what values are there in these two variables. Now let's save this. Control plus S is the one using which the class will be saved. Okay, now let's execute this again. We will going to close this. Okay, the same way I want to access this method, whatever this method will going to do, first we will going to create the instance or the object of the class. Based on this object we will going to access the different methods. Okay, so now let's try to run this again. The log will open up. Okay, now we will going to click on this debug only checkbox here, and now you will see in the num1 10 is the value which is stored, num2 20 is stored, and finally the sum of both is 30. Okay, if instead of sum you want to know the multiplication of both, then you can change the operator multiplication. Now you will going to get the final value as 200 in this sum. Got it? Now similarly if you want to do the subtraction, then you will going to get the minus 10. Okay, so in this way we will going to add the logic in the methods. Okay, and the logic is added within the methods only, not outside the methods. Till here, any queries, any questions from anyone? Okay, silence means no. I am assuming no. Okay, so next is the word which we have seen is the static member. So what is this static member? Let's go back to the class. Okay, so static is the keyword which you can use with the variables, okay, or with the variables also, and which you can use with the methods also. Okay, so what if I will make this method as static? Okay, let's try to make this as static. So how you will going to make it as static? After this access modifier, we used to add this keyword static. So now this method is of static type. Okay, so how what difference it has make now? So now let's save the changes first. Okay, so it is saved. Let's open the anonymous window. Here earlier the method was not static, and to access the properties of this method, first I need to create the object or the instance for this class, and based using this instance only I can access the method. But when I make this static, so what will be the difference? Now instead of making this instance or the object, I can directly access this method with the name of apex class dot the name of the method. Now there will be no need to create the instance of the class. Using the class name you can directly access the method. Okay, so if you will going to run this again, you will going to see it will going to execute without any error. Let's try to execute. So here it will going to open up the logs, and here in the debug you will see that the same output you will going to get. So in the case of static, now there will be no need to create any kind of instance or any kind of object to access the properties of your classes. Using the class name you can directly access the methods or the variables. Okay, so this is the static. In the apex you can also make your members as a static.